Newton's laws of motion and shows how force, mass, and acceleration are connected in classical mechanics. Newton's laws were developed by Sir Isaac Newton and provide the basic rules for understanding how objects move and how forces change their motion. The first law is known as the law of inertia. The second law gives the mathematical relationship between force, mass, and acceleration. And the third law explains action and reaction forces. Together, these three laws allow us to understand many everyday situations, from a car accelerating on a road to a rocket launching into space. To understand Newton's laws properly, we first need to understand the meaning of force, mass, and acceleration. A force is simply a push or a pull acting on an object. A force can change the speed of an object, change its direction of motion, change its state of motion, or even change its shape. For example, when a car engine produces a force, the car can speed up. When a football is kicked, the force of the kick changes the ball from rest to motion. When a spring is compressed or stretched, the applied force changes its shape. Force is a vector quantity, which means that it has both magnitude and direction. The SI unit of force is the Newton, represented by the symbol N. Mass is a measure of the amount of matter in an object, but in Newtonian mechanics it is also important because mass represents an object's resistance to changes in its motion. This resistance is related to inertia. An object with a large mass is generally more difficult to accelerate or slow down than an object with a small mass. For example, it is much easier to push an empty box than a heavily loaded box. The SI unit of mass is the kilogram, represented by kg. Acceleration describes how quickly an object's velocity changes with time. Since velocity includes both speed and direction, acceleration can occur when an object speeds up, slows down, or changes direction. The mathematical expression for acceleration is acceleration equals change in velocity divided by change in time. Therefore, acceleration can be written as A equals delta V divided by delta T. The SI unit of acceleration is meters per second squared, written as m per second squared. For example, if the velocity of a car changes by 10 meters per second in 2 seconds, its average acceleration is 5 meters per second squared. The most important relationship shown in the center of the image is Newton's second law, written as F equals ma. This equation tells us that the resultant force acting on an object is equal to the object's mass multiplied by its acceleration. It is important to understand that F in this equation represents the resultant or net force, meaning the vector sum of all the forces acting on the object. If several forces act on an object, we cannot simply look at one force and immediately determine the acceleration. We must consider all the forces and combine them according to their directions. For example, imagine a box being pushed to the right with a force of 20 newtons, while another force of 5 newtons acts toward the left. Because the forces act in opposite directions, they partially cancel each other. The resultant force is 20 newtons minus 5 newtons, giving a net force of 15 newtons toward the right. According to Newton's second law, this 15 newton resultant force will produce an acceleration toward the right. If the mass of the box were 3 kilograms, its acceleration would be 5 meters per second squared, because acceleration equals resultant force divided by mass, giving 15 divided by 3. Which equals 5 meters per second squared. The image also shows the definition of 1 newton. 1 newton is the amount of resultant force required to give a mass of 1 kilogram and acceleration of 1 meter per second squared. Using F equals ma, we can write 1 newton as 1 kilogram multiplied by 1 meter per second squared. Therefore, 1 newton is equal to 1 kilogram meter per second squared. This definition is extremely important because it connects the SI unit of force directly to mass and acceleration. The diagram on the right also emphasizes the correct sequence for solving force problems. First, identify all the forces acting on the object. These could include applied force, friction, weight, tension, normal reaction, air resistance, or other forces depending on the situation. Next, represent the forces as vectors and determine their directions. Then add the forces vectorially to find the resultant force. Finally, use Newton's second law to determine the resulting acceleration or change in motion. This approach is much more reliable than considering only the most obvious force in a situation. The image also gives several real-life examples. In the example of a ball rolling on the ground, forces such as friction can oppose the motion of the ball. If there is an unbalanced resultant force, the ball's velocity will change. In the example of a racing car accelerating, the engine produces a driving force through the wheels, while forces such as air resistance and friction oppose the motion. The car accelerates when the forward driving force is greater than the opposing forces, producing a resultant force in the forward direction. In the example of a rocket launch, the rocket experiences thrust in one direction while its weight acts downward and air resistance can oppose its upward motion. If the upward thrust is greater than the downward opposing forces, the resultant force is upward and the rocket accelerates upward. Newton's first law explains what happens when the resultant force is zero. It states that an object remains at rest, or continues moving with constant velocity in a straight line, unless acted upon by a non-zero resultant external force. This property is called inertia. An object at rest tends to remain at rest, while an object in motion tends to continue moving at constant velocity. For example, when a car suddenly stops, passengers tend to move forward because their bodies were already moving with the car. A seatbelt provides a force that changes the passenger's motion and helps prevent them from continuing forward. Newton's second law goes further by explaining exactly how an unbalanced force changes motion. A larger resultant force produces a larger acceleration if the mass remains constant. Similarly, for the same resultant force, an object with greater mass experiences a smaller acceleration. This is why a small force can accelerate a lightweight object significantly, while the same force may produce only a small acceleration in a very massive object. The direction of the acceleration is also the direction of the resultant force. Newton's third law explains interactions between objects. It states that when one object exerts a force on another object, the second object simultaneously exerts a force of equal magnitude and opposite direction on the first object. These are called action and reaction forces. An important point is that the two forces act on different objects, so they do not simply cancel each other. For example, when you push against a wall, you exert a force on the wall, and the wall exerts an equal and opposite force on you. Similarly, when a rocket pushes gases downward, the gases exert an upward force on the rocket, allowing the rocket to accelerate upward. The three laws work together to provide a complete framework for classical mechanics. The first law tells us what happens when the resultant force is zero. The second law tells us what happens when the resultant force is not zero and allows us to calculate the acceleration. The third law explains how forces arise through interactions between different objects. When solving a-level physics problems, it is especially important to identify all the forces, choose clear directions, calculate the resultant force correctly, and then apply F equals ma. The central idea to remember from this entire image is that forces do not directly create motion. Rather, an unbalanced resultant force produces acceleration, which means a change in velocity. If the resultant force is zero, an object can remain stationary or continue moving at constant velocity. This simple but powerful idea forms one of the most important foundations of classical mechanics.